The practice facility in Allen Park has been buzzing with an energy that's different from anything we've felt in decades. Something's shifting in the Detroit Lions organization, and the conversation around one of our most electrifying players is taking an unexpected turn. Welcome to Lions News Fan Report, your home for breaking updates, insider perspectives, and the most comprehensive analysis of our beloved Detroit Lions. I'm bringing you the latest developments, the whispers from inside the facility, and the strategic moves that could reshape our championship window. Today, I need to talk to you about a situation that's evolving faster than anyone anticipated, and it involves the heartbeat of our offense. Stay with me because this goes deeper than you think. Let me take you back to April 2024. That's when Brad Holmes and the Lions front office made one of the most significant financial commitments in franchise history. Amon-Ra St. Brown, our fourth-round gem from the 2021 draft, signed a 4-year extension worth $120 million. At that moment, every single Lions fan celebrated. We locked down our most consistent playmaker, the guy who embodies everything Dan Campbell preaches about grit, toughness, and relentless preparation. The kid who turned a fourth-round selection into 3 Pro Bowl appearances and 2 All-Pro honors. We thought this was settled, that Sun God would be wearing Honolulu blue for the foreseeable future, leading us into our championship era. But here's where things get interesting, and I need you to really pay attention to the details. In professional sports, especially at the highest level of the NFL, contract extensions don't always tell the complete story. They represent intentions, sure, but the landscape can shift dramatically based on performance trajectories, organizational philosophy changes, and market dynamics that most fans never see coming. I'm not here to spread panic or create drama where none exists. I'm here to have an honest, analytical conversation about the realities of modern NFL roster construction and what it could mean for our franchise cornerstone. Let's establish the facts first. Through his first 9 games this season, St. Brown has been absolutely elite. 64 receptions on 82 targets, 693 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Those numbers place him 5th in receiving yards across the entire league and 4th in total receptions. The consistency is undeniable. The production is exactly what we need from our number 1 receiver. He's been the safety valve for Jared Goff, the guy who shows up when we need clutch conversions, the player who defenders game plan around but still can't stop. His route-running precision and that chip on his shoulder mentality have made him irreplaceable in Ben Johnson's offensive scheme. But I've been watching this league long enough to know that production alone doesn't guarantee longevity in one place. The NFL is a business, and sometimes the most shocking moves happen when you least expect them. I've been monitoring certain indicators, certain patterns that emerge when organizations start evaluating their long-term roster composition, and some of what I'm seeing around St. Brown's situation is worth discussing, even if it makes us uncomfortable. First, let's talk about the financial landscape. That $120 million extension was massive, making St. Brown one of the highest-paid receivers in football. His annual average puts him in elite company, and rightfully so, based on his performance. But here's the consideration that front offices constantly wrestle with. As teams build towards sustained championship contention, they have to balance star power with roster depth. The Lions currently have significant capital invested in the receiver position, and with emerging talents across the league commanding premium dollars, there's always a calculation happening behind the scenes about resource allocation versus performance optimization. Now, before anyone panics, I want to be crystal clear about something. The likelihood of the Lions moving on from St. Brown in the immediate future is minimal. That contract extension includes protections and guarantees that make any near-term separation financially prohibitive. But I'm thinking about the bigger picture here, the 3 to 4 year window that championship organizations constantly evaluate. We've seen this pattern before across the league. A star player signs a massive extension, performs at an elite level, but then organizational priorities shift based on draft capital, emerging young talents, or philosophical changes in offensive scheme. The Lions have been masterful in their roster construction under Holmes and Campbell. Look at what they've done building through the draft, finding value in unexpected places, and creating a culture that maximizes every player's potential. St. Brown himself is the perfect example of this philosophy. They took him in the 4th round when other teams passed, developed him into a superstar, and rewarded him with generational wealth. That's the Lions' way. But that same front office has also shown they're not afraid to make difficult decisions when they believe it serves the long-term championship vision. Here's what I'm monitoring closely and what you should be aware of as we move forward. The Lions have invested significantly in their receiving core beyond St. Brown. Jamison Williams is developing into a legitimate deep threat. Sam Laporta emerged as one of the league's premier tight ends as a rookie. The offensive system Ben Johnson has installed doesn't rely on any single receiver dominating targets. It's a scheme predicated on versatility, matchup exploitation, and distributing the ball to whoever has the advantage. This is actually a strength, but it also means the offense isn't entirely dependent on one player's elite production. Additionally, I've been watching how St. Brown's off-field brand development has accelerated. The Cheerios partnership, the foundation work with his brothers, the growing media presence. These are all fantastic opportunities for him personally, and they showcase his marketability beyond football. But they also represent the kind of portfolio that can make a player more attractive to larger markets or organizations. Looking for that dual impact of on-field production and off-field brand amplification. I'm not suggesting he wants out of Detroit. Everything he's said publicly indicates his commitment to bringing a championship to this city. But the reality is that situations can evolve quickly in professional sports. Let me put this in perspective with some historical context. We've seen franchise cornerstones moved in situations that seemed impossible just months before they happened, not because of poor performance, not because of locker room issues, but because organizations made calculated decisions about championship windows, salary cap optimization, and long-term roster construction. The Lions are in a unique position right now. We're tied for first in the NFC North with a 6-3 record. We have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. Our roster is constructed to win now while maintaining flexibility for sustained success. That's the balance Holmes is managing. And sometimes maintaining that balance requires evaluating every asset, even your most productive players. Now, here's where my optimism comes in and why I believe St. Brown remains central to our championship pursuit. Everything I'm discussing represents theoretical considerations, the kind of strategic analysis that front offices conduct continuously. But the practical reality is that St. Brown is performing at such an elite level, fitting so perfectly into our offensive identity, and representing so much of what this team stands for that any move would be counterproductive. He's not just a stat producer. He's a culture carrier, a player whose work ethic and mentality align perfectly with Campbell's vision. Those intangibles matter enormously, and they're not easily replaced regardless of draft picks or free agent acquisitions. The Lions are building something special here in Detroit. We can all feel it. The energy around this team, the belief in the locker room, the way this city has rallied behind this roster. St. Brown is a massive part of that foundation. His honey handstand celebration has become iconic, symbolizing the joy and personality this team plays with. Trading or releasing a player of his caliber and cultural significance would send shockwaves through the organization and the fan base. I don't see Holmes making that kind of disruptive move unless circumstances changed dramatically, which currently shows no indication of happening. So where does this leave us? I'm bringing this analysis to you not to create fear or speculation, but to provide the kind of honest, comprehensive perspective that serious Lions fans deserve. We need to understand the business realities of the NFL while maintaining faith in our front office's decision-making. St. Brown just signed that extension 7 months ago. He's producing at an elite level. He's healthy, engaged, and committed to this team's success. All indicators point toward him being a Lion for the duration of that contract and potentially beyond. But I also think it's valuable for us as informed fans to understand that nothing in professional sports is permanent, and front offices are constantly evaluating every possible scenario to maximize championship probability. The most likely outcome? St. Brown continues being our #1 receiver, putting up Pro Bowl numbers, helping us compete for division titles and playoff positioning, and ultimately playing a central role in bringing Detroit its first Super Bowl championship. That's what I'm expecting, that's what the data supports, and that's what his contract suggests. This isn't a situation where I'm predicting movement. It's a situation where I'm acknowledging that professional sports front offices think about these possibilities constantly, even when they seem unlikely to materialize. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me your thoughts on this entire situation. Do you think St. Brown is untouchable in Detroit, or do you believe there's any scenario where the Lions would consider moving on? How important is he to our championship window? And what would you say to Brad Holmes if you had the opportunity to discuss our roster construction strategy? Your perspective matters because we're all in this together, building this championship culture from the ground up. Lions News Fan Report is your source for the most thorough, honest, and insightful Lions coverage anywhere. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the notification bell, and make sure you're getting every update as soon as it drops. I'm here bringing you the analysis that goes beyond surface-level reporting, diving deep into the strategic considerations that shape our team's future. Share this video with every Lions fan you know, and let's keep this conversation going. One pride, always and forever.